The sky was on fire. Flames lit the night over the planet Oritus as black warships hovered above the towns. Screams echoed across the broken lands. The invaders' cold, silent machines called the crying moved through villages, destroying everything. They didn't speak. They didn't listen. They only took Dot in a small underground bunker beneath a burning city. A young technician named Vel watched his screen flash red. "It's no use," said a voice behind him. "No one's coming." Vel didn't reply. His hands were shaking, but he pressed the buttons anyway. He activated the last signal beacon. A single message pulsed into Space One's desperate cry for help. Dot, just 4 words. "Please, anyone, help us." He sent it to every direction in the galaxy. He didn't know if anyone would hear it. Dot, far away across galaxies, the message passed through forgotten systems, dark clouds, and dead stars. Most nations ignored it. Some were too afraid. Others, too proud. The Council of Stars received it and deleted it. But on a small blue planet called Earth, the signal reached an old military satellite, and it woke something that had been sleeping for a long time. Deep below the surface of Earth, in a base hidden under frozen rock, red lights began to blink. Dot inside the command room. A machine voice spoke. Distress signal received. Coordinates locked. Protocol 9A initiated. The ground rumbled. Dot, doors opened that had not moved in decades. Dot, and from the dark they came. Vel thought the signal had failed. 2 days passed, then 3. The crying war machines got closer every hour. His people had no weapons left. Children were hidden in old tunnels. The air smelled like smoke and ash. He sat in silence, looking at the screen, waiting for it to blink just once. Then it did. A single line of alien script appeared. Incoming response. Eta, 37 minutes. Vel blinked. What? Who? The message said nothing more. Dot, above the ruined city, the crying fleet floated like giant insects. They began charging their main cannon. One final strike, and the city would be gone. Suddenly, the sky cracked. A thunderous roar echoed across the land. Then something dropped from orbit. Dot, not a ship, a spear of metal. It hit the ground with such force that the crying ship above it lost control and spun. Vel watched from a window. Others screamed and ducked, but Vel stared. His eyes were wide. More fire fell from the sky. Not bombs. Pods. Dozens of them. And from each pod, something stepped out. Tall figures wrapped in black armor. Their eyes glowed red behind narrow helmets. Their movements were smooth, but too precise, too quiet. They carried no flags. They didn't speak. They just began walking straight toward the crying. The crying responded fast. Drones swarmed down. Laser fire hit the ground. But the armored figures didn't stop. One raised a hand, and a bolt of energy wiped out a squad of drones instantly. Another ran faster than any creature. Vel had seen and tore through a warbot with his bare hands. They fought like demons. No fear. No sound. Just purpose. People in the city began to whisper. Who are they? Are they human? Vel didn't know. But something inside him whispered the truth. These weren't ordinary humans. These were from the planet that everyone in the galaxy had once feared. A planet that hadn't answered a call in generations. Earth. But the story said Earth was silent. The Council had locked it out. No one had seen Terrans in 100 years. Vel felt a chill. They're here, he whispered. But why now? As one of the black-armored figures stepped past the bunker's camera feed, Vel caught a closer look. The armor was old but powerful. Burn marks, claw scratches, and even names were carved into the plates. The symbol on the chest was a simple one, a globe, surrounded by stars. And under it, In their ancient language, from Earth, we end what others cannot. Vel's hands trembled. He had sent a signal for help, and Earth had answered, but Earth didn't send. Diplomats.Earth sent its monsters. Asterisk, the smoke from the destroyed drones still hung in the air. Fires burned in broken streets. People watched from shattered windows, too afraid to step outside. But the black-armored figures moved through the city like shadows. They didn't talk, they didn't rest, and they didn't stop. Vel stayed in the bunker, watching the feed from the outside cameras. One figure stepped into view taller than any man he'd ever seen, covered head to toe in matte black armor. Its glowing red visor scanned the area, then locked on a broken building where survivors were hiding. Vel's heart raced. Was it going to attack? But instead of raising a weapon, the figure lifted a hand and made a gesture. Small, careful, like it was telling them to stay down, to stay safe. Then it turned and disappeared into the smoke. Not far away, a little alien girl named Rena hid under a metal bench. She had been separated from her parents when the Cryan invaded. She cried quietly, holding a blanket and trying to stay silent. Her horn shook every time another explosion sounded nearby. Suddenly, she heard something. Footsteps. Heavy. Sharp dot getting closer. She held her breath. A shape appeared huge, armored, terrifying. It was one of the black monsters. Rena tried to hide deeper under the bench, but the armored figure stopped in front of her. And then it knelt. Not a word. No weapon. Just silence. Then, with slow, smooth movement, the figure reached into its armor and pulled out something. A protein bar. Wrapped in silver. It placed the bar gently on the ground and backed away. Rena stared. The monster didn't move, only watched her. After a moment, she grabbed the bar. The monster stood. And walked away into the fire. Rena would never forget it, not because she was scared, but because for the first time in days, someone had looked at her like she mattered. Across the city, the Cryan regrouped. Their commanders screamed through robotic transmissions. New drones were launched. Stronger bots dropped from their ships. Machines had never lost a city before. And now they were being pushed back. By only 12 of Earth's warriors. The lead Cryan general barked a single command: annihilate them. The next wave hit hard. Cryan drones swarmed from above. Ground. Bots moved with fast legs and heavy weapons. They surrounded the black-armored warriors in the center of the city ruins. Civilians hid in fear, thinking the monsters from Earth would finally fall, but they didn't. One warrior stepped forward. He pulled out a long blade made of something that shimmered like light and darkness at once. Then the scream of battle began. Vel watched it all. One of the Terrans moved faster than anything he had ever seen. The figure flipped over a drone, used its own blade to destroy it mid-air, and landed with force that cracked the road. Another Terran leapt through fire, crashing into a group of bots and emerging with smoke rising from her armor, but not a scratch. Didn't use many weapons. They used their bodies, their minds, their training. They didn't panic. They hunted. And the Cryan were their prey. After 30 minutes, the fighting stopped. All Cryan forces in the city were gone. Not defeated, not destroyed. The city streets were silent again. But this silence was different. It wasn't fear. It was awe. Ve elope in the bunker gore for the first time in 3 days. The air was smoky, but calm. People slowly stepped outside, expecting to see ruin. Instead, they saw tall, still figures watching the skyline. The black-armored warriors stood like statues, watching, waiting. Then, a voice echoed from one of them. Robotic, deep, civilian secure. Begin next phase. The monsters began to move again, but this time, People followed Dot not to fight them, Dot to thank them. Vel looked at the closest Terran. Its armor had a deep scratch across the chest plate like. It had taken a hit for someone. He whispered to himself, "Who are you?" The figure turned, just for a moment, as if it heard. Then it vanished into the smoke again. Dot, the people of Oratus had sent a signal for help. They had begged the stars for mercy. What they got was something else. Dot not mercy. Dot not soldiers. Not even hope. Dot they got Earth's answer. They got Earth's monsters. Asterisk. The air was still heavy with ash. Dot, but the city was quiet for now. People slowly came out of hiding, walking carefully over the ruins. The sky had turned gray. Buildings stood like skeletons. Fires still burned in the distance, but no Cryan remained. Not a single one, and the only ones walking the streets were the Terran monsters. They didn't celebrate. They didn't speak. They didn't rest. They simply worked. Vel followed one of them from a distance. The warrior walked with perfect control, like it wasn't human at all. The armor was scorched, the chest plate dented. Still, it moved like a storm held in metal. Dot. It stopped beside a collapsed building. Underneath, someone cried out. The black-armored figure knelt, grabbed a metal beam with one hand, and lifted it like it weighed nothing. Dust flew into the air. A group of children were underneath, coughing, dirty, and terrified. The monster didn't speak. Dot. It just reached out its hand. A small girl hesitated. Dot. Then she grabbed it. The crowd watched in silence as the children were carried out one by one. Dot. No one clapped. No one spoke, but something changed. Fear started to fade, just a little. Across the city, other Terrans moved with the same cold purpose. One of them began sealing a cracked power core with a strange metal paste. Another activated a strange floating drone that scanned for wounded civilians and injected them with healing fluid. Wherever they walked, they didn't bring war anymore. They brought order, but their presence was still terrifying. Even their kindness felt like it came from something, barely holding back a storm. A young boy named Kio, barely 10, had been hiding in a ventilation pipe for days. When he finally crawled out, he saw one of the monsters standing over a pile of destroyed Cryan bots. He was afraid, but his curiosity was stronger. The black-armored warrior didn't move as the boy stepped closer. Kio spoke, his voice shaking. "You're human?" No answer. "Why don't you talk?" The warrior's helmet slowly turned. Then a strange sound came from inside the armor. Not a growl, a whisper. "We were made to end wars, not explain them." Kio blinked. "You were made?" The figure turned back around and walked away. Dot in the city center. Vel joined a crowd gathered around one of the Terrans. It was digging a perfect trench with its hands' metal fingers cutting through the ground like knives. A small command post was being built. Fast. Within minutes, towers rose. Drones flew. Shields powered on. One man in the crowd whispered, "How are they doing all this?" Another replied, "They've done it before, many times. On far worse worlds." Vel stepped forward. "They're from Earth." That's what the signal said. Someone gasped. A few people stepped back. A woman said, "Earth?" I thought Earth was silent, forgotten. Vel shook his head. No, they were sleeping, watching, waiting. He pointed to the black figure now standing on a rooftop, scanning the skies. And now, they're awake, deep in the remains of the Cryan shipyard. One of the Terrans activated a beacon. It blinked once, then projected a glowing map. It showed more Cryan forces, bigger waves, heading straight for Oratus. In 2 days. The Terran didn't flinch. It pressed a button. 12. Lights blinked across the planet. Other monsters were already in place. That night, Rena, the little alien girl, watched from a rooftop. She clutched the silver wrapper of the protein bar the Terran had given her. She saw one of them standing on the wall of the city, facing the stars, like a statue. UNMOVING. Watching. She whispered. Are you real? The warrior didn't turn, but in her heart, she knew he heard, and she somehow felt safe, not because he was gentle, but because whatever scared her, was far more afraid of him. The signal they had sent had been small, weak, but the answer? The answer was made of nightmares wrapped in armor, and those nightmares were only just beginning their work. In the cold dark of space, the Cryan High Commander stood on the bridge of his massive warship. Dozens of smaller ships surrounded him, forming a fleet that had never lost a system. Screens floated before him, showing scenes from the planet Oritis. But something was wrong. His scouts had stopped reporting. His drones gone. His forward bases destroyed. Now, the terrifying part. The enemy numbers had not increased. Still only 12. 12 humans. And yet, they were tearing through his war plans like paper. They are not normal, one officer whispered. They are not soldiers, said another. Commander narrowed his eyes. Then what are they? No one answered. On the ground, Vel stared at the map the Terrans had projected. Red dots showed incoming enemy forces. Thousands of them. Drones, tanks, warships. A full-scale response from the Cryan Empire. The people of Oritis began to panic. We can't fight that. We need to run. There's no hope. The Terran standing beside Vel remained silent. He was taller than any alien present, his armor cracked, but still strong. Vel turned to him. Did you hear that? We're outnumbered. Outgunned. They're sending everything. The Terran looked at him, visor glowing red dot, then said just one thing. Good. The next night, the sky broke open again. But this time, it wasn't Earth's answer, that it was Cryan wrath. Over 1,000 ships entered orbit. They dropped warbots like rain. They burned the upper forests with firestorms. They launched bombs into the mountains where refugee camps had docked, and then they moved toward the capital city, the last safe place, Horridus Prime. But this time, the Terrans were waiting. One of them, codenamed Reaper, walked straight into a column of enemy bots marching through a canyon. He didn't fire. He simply walked. The bots opened. Fire first. Explosions lit up the canyon. When the smoke cleared, Reaper was still standing. His armor glowed with strange blue lines. He moved faster than they could track. One by one, the bots fell. He used their weapons against them. He tore through machines like paper, the canyon filled with sparks, metal, and silence. In another part of the city, Rena watched from a rooftop as 3 more Terrans faced down. Cryan tanks. The tanks fired. The ground shook. But one of the Terrans jumped over the blast and landed on the tank. He ripped open the hatch with his bare hands and dropped a sphere inside. The tank exploded in white fire. Rena gasped. The monster didn't even look back. In the Cryan flagship above, alarm screamed. Their losses were climbing too fast. The numbers didn't make sense. Send everything, the commander shouted. Crush them. But his voice had lost its strength, and deep inside him, something else had started to grow. Fear. One Cryan officer whispered. They're not just Deathworlders. There's something worse. Worse than what? The officer turned pale. Worse than extinction. Back on the ground, Vel finally saw something that made him go cold. The Terrans weren't enjoying the battle. They weren't angry. They weren't even tired. They were quiet. Focused. Efficient. Like they'd done this before. Like they'd been made for this. Vel remembered the words he'd seen carved into one Terran's chestplate. We end what others cannot. And now he understood. These monsters didn't fight because they wanted to. They fought because no one else could. A transmission cut into the emergency channel. It was a cry in voice. Unknown human force, identify yourselves. For the first time, a Terran responded. A voice calm, deep, cold. We are the mistake the galaxy tried to forget. Then silence. That night, the Cryan flagship turned around. They didn't retreat because they had no weapons left. They retreated because they realized they were the prey now. The enemy had come to crush a planet. Instead, they found something they couldn't understand, something that didn't fear death, something that didn't negotiate, something that didn't stop. The Cryan had tried to bring war to Oritus, but Earth had sent its monsters. And now, the monsters had taught them what fear really was. Asterisk. Smoke still floated above the ruined city. Oritus Prime had survived the second attack. Thanks to them. The monsters. The Deathworlders. The humans from Earth. But they weren't gone. Not yet. They now walked the city like ghosts cleaning up, scanning. The wreckage, standing watch at the edges. They didn't rest. They didn't smile. They didn't speak much. And still, the people feared them. Until one alien woman, wounded and alone, saw something different. Her name was Lyra, a healer from the Thera. Outer zones. Her wing had been broken during the Cryan assault. She had refused evacuation, choosing to help others. But the pain had gotten worse. She collapsed near a destroyed tower, barely conscious, her blue skin bruised and cut. She expected death, closed her eyes, but when she opened them again, he was there. One of the monsters stood over her. Black armor, red visor, silent. She tried to crawl away, weak and scared, but he knelt beside her and reached into his armor. Lyra flinched. She expected a weapon, but he pulled out a small medical pack. He scanned her leg. A blue light flickered across her body. Then, without speaking, he applied a healing patch to her wounds. Pain faded. Her vision cleared. She stared up at him. You saved me? No answer. He just stood. And turned to walk away. Wait, she said. He paused. Lyra struggled to her feet. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. The monster didn't turn, but she heard him speak, his voice low, metallic, but calm, because we still remember what it means to care. Then he walked into the shadows. Later, she followed him. Quietly. She watched as he helped rebuild part of a wall, using tech far beyond anything on Oritus. He didn't speak to others, but sometimes he paused, looking at the stars, as if remembering something long ago. Lyra walked up to him. I want to thank you. The Terran finally turned. His helmet tilted. Then, slowly, he reached up. And removed it. Beneath the armor was a man. Tired eyes, scar across his cheek, a face marked by war, but not without soul. He looked older than most, but strong, his expression calm, guarded, but human. Real. Lyra stepped back, shocked. You look like us. He nodded. I'm still human. Just changed, she whispered. What happened to you? He looked away. War happened again and again until we became something else. Something the galaxy needed, but feared. She paused. Then why did you answer our signal? His answer came quietly. Because no one else would. The next day, word spread. One of the monsters had revealed his face. One of them had helped a local healer. The story traveled fast. Fear began to shift. People started waving when the Terrans passed. Some even approached to say thank you. The monsters didn't smile, but they nodded. They heard. They understood. That night, Lyra met the human again. She brought him something warm, spiced broth from her homeworld. He hesitated. And took it. And for a long while, they sat together in silence. 2. Warriors from different worlds. One full of pain, one full of hope. But somehow, both still holding on to something small. Something rare. Humanity. At the city's edge, a child named Kio stood watching the Terrans guarding the wall. One of them looked down. Kio waved. This time, the black-armored monster raised a hand back, not to threaten, but to greet. The people of Oritus had seen fire, they had seen death, they had seen monsters walk among them. But now, they saw something else. They saw protectors. They saw hearts behind the armor. And maybe, just maybe, they started to believe the monsters weren't monsters at all. Asterisk in the far southern mountains of Oritus, where the Cryon hadn't reached yet. An old rebel base still stood hidden beneath stone and frost. Inside, Commander Rel paced in front of a dusty console. He had once led a small resistance against the Cryon, but when the real war came, his people were forced to hide. Now, he'd just received news that stunned him. 12 warriors had landed, not armies, not fleets. Just 12, and they had destroyed an entire Cryon. Wave. Impossible. Unless. Unless the stories were true. Search Earth records. He ordered the AI in the room. A hollow voice replied, Earth is locked by council order. Access restricted. Rel frowned. Bypass it. The system resisted. Council laws forbid. I don't follow their laws, he snapped. I follow survival. The console buzzed. After a few long minutes, ancient files began to appear. Redacted, corrupted, hidden, but enough remained. Enough to show the truth. Centuries ago, Earth had joined the Galactic Council. At first, they were peaceful, smart, helpful, but then the galaxy learned where they were truly from. Deathworld. A place where storms tore cities apart, where gravity crushed the weak, where animals hunted with precision, where life survived not through strength, but through will. Humans evolved to endure pain. To overcome fear. To adapt. And to never give up. At first, the galaxy admired them. Then, it feared them. In every war, the Terrans didn't just win. They ended conflicts completely, brutally, without hesitation. Not because they loved war, but because they hated it, and knew how to finish it. Fast. Commander Rel leaned closer to the screen. Read one quote from an old council record. When a Terran arrives, the war is already over. The enemy just hasn't realized it yet. He swallowed hard. Earth hadn't gone silent by accident. The council had banished them, locked them out, feared. Their strength. Erased their truth. And now someone had called them back. Back at Oritus Prime, the people were rebuilding. Terrans helped, quietly, without asking for thanks. Kio and Rena ran between buildings, laughing again like children should. Lyra stood beside the human she now called Ash. She watched him scan the horizon, always alert. Why did your people disappear? She asked. Ash didn't answer right away. Then he finally spoke. We weren't wanted. We were too good at surviving, too dangerous. So they locked the doors. She looked at him. But you came anyway. He nodded. Because someone knocked. Commander Rel arrived that night in a stolen transport. When he stepped out, the people watched with caution, but Ash walked straight up to him. You know, Rel said. Ash nodded. I remember you from the old wars. Rel paused. Why did you come back now? Ash looked past him at the sky. Because the galaxy has become soft, and evil has grown bold again. You asked for help, so Earth sent what it had. Rel studied the human's face. You're not like the stories. Ash's voice was cold. The stories are soft lies. We are not heroes. We are the result of everything the galaxy feared. But we still believe in doing what's right. Rel nodded slowly. Then offered his hand. And for the first time in 100 years, a Terran shook hands with a rebel from the stars. Not as monsters, not as myths, but as warriors with a purpose. That night, Rel addressed the people of Oratus. "I have seen the truth," he said. "Earth was never our enemy. They were the warning no one listened to. And now, they are our only hope." The crowd didn't cheer. They stood in silence. Then, slowly, someone began to clap, then another, until the city echoed with sound. Not fear, not celebration, but respect, the next day. The last message from the Cryan arrived. A threat. A warning. A promise of vengeance. Ash read the message, then turned to his team. Prepare for final phase. The others nodded. Weapons were loaded. Armor sealed. Eyes glowed red again. They weren't finished yet. They were just getting started. Because now, the monsters weren't just fighting for Earth. They were fighting for everyone who had been ignored. And the galaxy was about to witness what Earth's forgotten children could truly do. Asterisk. The final night was quiet. Too quiet. The stars above Oratus didn't blink. No ships moved in orbit. No explosions, no alarms. But everyone knew it wasn't over. The Cryan weren't finished. They were gathering. Preparing. Their largest fleet yet was coming. Over 20,000 warships. Billions of drones. The full power of their empire. Their goal: erase Oratus, wipe the memory of resistance, and prove that no one, not even Earth, could stand in their way. Ash stood on the city wall, visor dark, armor scratched, but standing strong. Beside him were the 11 other Terran monsters. Behind them, civilians, workers, children. Hope rested on shoulders built for war. Lyra joined Ash. She looked at the sky. "Will you survive this?" Ash didn't answer right away. Then he said softly, "Doesn't matter. They will." She nodded, but her hands trembled. "Why are you so calm?" Ash looked at her, then toward his team. "Because we've done this before." High above, the Cryan fleet blinked into orbit, dark clouds of steel, each ship shaped like a blade, each drone ready to kill. Their supreme commander gave the order: burn them. The first wave fell. Thousands of bombs, lasers scorched the sky. Buildings collapsed. Not the shield. The Terrans had activated something ancient, an Earth-born fortress shield. One powered by fusion cores no alien had ever seen. It held. For now, then the Terrans moved. Ash and his squad launched upward straight into orbit. No ships, just armored flight suits. They flew like missiles, through fire and death. And then they landed inside Cryan ships, one by one. Boarding actions by hand. Aboard the Cryan flagship, alarms screamed. Red lights flashed, but it was too late. Ash tore through the bridge doors. His fists were fire. His boots cracked the steel floor. The Cryan guards opened fire and fell within seconds. The commander raised his voice. "Who are you? What are you?" Ash stopped, standing over him. He removed his helmet. And spoke, calm as death. "You were warned." Then everything went white. From the surface, Vel watched the sky. One by one, Cryan ships exploded. Not from outside attack. From within. The monsters were tearing the fleet apart ship by ship, with nothing but their will, their armor, and a mission that could not be stopped. In just 2 hours. The largest fleet in Cryan history was gone. Oratus stood. The people stood. Earth's warriors descended back to the surface. Scorched, wounded, but alive. The battle was over, but the story was not, because Earth left something behind. A single block. Pod launched from Ash's armor before he left. It traveled across galaxies. Straight to the Galactic. Council. Inside was a message. A voice recording. Ash's voice. It said, "You ignored their cries. You closed your doors. You chose comfort over Courage. We heard them. And we answered. From now on, if you refuse to protect the weak, we will. And when we arrive, remember this. We are not your heroes. We are your reminder. The council chamber fell into silence. That no one spoke, that no one dared, because deep down, every one of them knew the monsters had returned, and they were on the side of justice. Now, not politics, not fear, just truth. Back on Oratus, life began again. Children ran, markets opened, flowers were planted over broken streets, but at the edge of the city, 12 statues now stood, each one shaped like the Terran warriors. No faces, no names, just one line carved into the base. When hope was gone, Earth answered. And deep in space, on the black ships of Earth, the monsters slept once more, waiting, watching, until the next cry for help reached them. Because sometimes the galaxy needs heroes, and sometimes it needs monsters. Asterisk.